Hi guys, this is Tabiasobi, and today I'll be sharing some tips to help you get started on the right foot with combat in Shining Resonance Refrain. Yandakakura! That, by the way, is my horrible impression of a Yakuza Chimpira, which is actually funny because I'm probably the least violent guy on the planet. Probably. Hey, I'm a lover, not a fighter. I don't know why, but my niece always says yuck when I say that. But enough about that, let's get started. Alright, tip number 1, use the lock-on feature. True confession, I actually made it all the way to the 3rd chapter of the game without using this feature because, well, I didn't know how to do it. While fighting chapter 2's slippery last boss and having a tough time tagging him with my Shining Dragon's dash attack, however, I started thinking, there must be a way to lock onto an enemy in this game. So I did what I used to always do when games actually came with an actual manual and looked up the directions. Lo and behold, you can lock onto an enemy by pressing R2. Hallelujah. It was like the first time I tried out glasses when my eyesight started going bad. It just makes hitting foes so much easier, especially when you're fighting in Dragon mode. So I recommend using the lock on feature when appropriate. Now it's time for tip number 2, which is mix up your attacks. Attacking in Shining Resonance is dependent on 2 things, your action points or AP and your mana points or MP. Basically, your AP gauge works like a stamina bar that lets you use your physical or regular attacks. Once it's kinda dried up, you'll need to pause for a bit and let it build up again so you can use your regular attacks once more. It's a short gauge but recovers quickly. Your MP gauge, on the other hand, lets you use your force or magic attacks. Unlike the AP gauge, the MP gauge doesn't run out as quickly but takes longer to recharge. One thing to keep in mind is that your AP and MP gauges have a synergistic relationship. See, when you use your regular attacks, it actually helps replenish your MP. Likewise, using a magic attack refills your AP gauge to full. As such, you'll want to alternate between the two, usually by using a combo. So early in the game with Yuma, for example, you can go circle, 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 circle to do a regular combo, and then follow that up by pressing triangle to mix in a break attack, then finish the combo with a force attack. This is a basic combo that switches attacks and lets you take advantage of the synergy between them. Some moves also have their own little mini synergies. Yuma's triangle attack, for example, tends to topple foes, while his force attack, Quake Smash, does extra damage on downed opponents. This makes something like circle, 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 triangle, then Quake Smash a good combo. On to tip number 3. Break it down, my brother. By that I mean use attacks that will inflict break status on foes. This stuns an enemy for a bit and makes them more susceptible to damage, something that's especially useful when fighting against bosses or tough monsters. You can break your foes a few ways. One is by regularly weaving in a break attack into your combos by pressing the triangle button. Yuma's is especially good, as I mentioned earlier, as it can regularly topple normal enemies. Another way to break enemies is by using a force attack that exploits a foe's weakness, so like using thunder on one of those giant frogs. Anyway, get in the habit of breaking enemies in fights because they will make them more manageable. On to the next tip, Dragon Shift and Band Synergy, or BAND. So pressing L1 plus R1 lets Yuma transform into the Shining Dragon for a limited amount of time by consuming his own MP. In Dragon form, you get a normal attack with Circle that you can combo into a break attack with Triangle. You can also use Square for an airborne Fire Breath attack, and then the X button for a dashing attack. So that dash attack is actually really good for positioning because Dragon Yuma moves kinda slow. So as mentioned earlier, the amount of time you can spend as a dragon is determined by how many mana points Yuma has left. When Yuma's MP drops below 50%, there's a chance that he will go berserk, so he will attack randomly like your enemies or even you. And this chance goes up the lower his MP gets. As such, you usually want to press L1 plus R1 again to cancel the transformation and return to human form before that happens. During Chapter 2, however, you will gain the ability to do what's called a BAND or band performance. Now you will need your band gauge to the left of the screen to be filled up at least to level 1 in order to activate it. This will then trigger different effects while it's active depending on which Dragoneer or character you have set as the band leader. Yuma, for example, has a unique band effect that increases physical attacks and prevents stumbling. 2 of your other Dragoneer allies share a similar effect of increasing magic attack damage and letting your status attacks get a 100% ailment rate against enemies. Then the remaining 2 Dragoneers also share a band effect that increases the critical rate of all attacks and raises your accuracy to 100%. In addition to those perks, however, Band attacks will also calm down a Berserk Yuma and let him turn back into human form safely. This is great because it means you can stay in Dragon mode longer until Yuma goes Berserk to maximize your transformation, and then trigger a band performance with the R1 button and then calm him down. Especially a good tip when fighting tough bosses. On to the next tip. Manage your teammates in battle. See, the ally AI in Shining Resonance Refrain isn't the smartest in the block. If you fight foes that are slightly challenging, they will usually get themselves killed before you know it. This is why you'll want to give them orders via the conduct command. It's certainly not a cure-all for everything, but it still helps to prevent outright disaster. So if you're noticing that your allies are taking damage frequently, for example, just press up on the D-pad, bring up the conducting menu, and have your party switch to focus on healing. This is most effective when you've got either Kirika or Rina in your party with their healing spells equipped. Just keep in mind that your healers will burn through MP if your team is frequently getting damaged. One thing you can do is to have both healers in your team at the same time. This lets them share healing duties, which makes their MP gauge last longer. Otherwise, you can bring MP recovery items to help your healers, especially for longer battles. Note that even when ordering everyone to focus on healing, your party can still take good damage against tough bosses or enemies that are several levels higher than you. Also note that you can solo conduct and specifically order a character by pressing left or right on the D-pad during battle. This will allow you, for example, to order a teammate to specifically target the enemy you're locked onto, or even heal you. If survival remains difficult and you're still finding the HP loss to be tough to manage, you might just want to grind experience by fighting monsters on the field or doing Grimoire dungeons. Sometimes just leveling up once or twice gives you enough breathing room to make a fight more manageable. Next tip, don't forget that you can block or dash. I mean, the block and the dash buttons are there for a reason. Now, sometimes I can be guilty of focusing too much on attacking and getting my combos completed. Normally that's a mistake, and that's how I usually get pounded by foes. See, the game provides a couple of defensive maneuvers, which ensure that you don't need to heal as much, provided you use them with whatever character you're manually controlling. So one is blocking, which you can use by pressing the square button. I'm usually reminded how useful this is when using Yuma's original tuning ability, which makes him block automatically as long as he's not mid-move. Now, if you time this perfectly when doing it yourself, however, you will perform a perfect block, which reduces damage to 0. Good luck with that. The other is to dash, which you can do by pressing the X button. Time this right and you can avoid damage outright, allowing you to hit and run against even the toughest bosses. I especially like dashing, which can be easily used to cancel your combos as long as you're not button mashing. Next tip, load for bear. By that I mean having items can spell the difference between experiencing bitter defeat in a drawn-out fight or satisfying triumph. This is especially true early on when you don't have access to spells like Resurrection and can run into foes or bosses that have a significant level advantage over you. 3 things you'll want to bring with you early on are potions for health, ethers for refilling your healer's MP, and spirit sealings to raise down allies. I know I mentioned that the AI is not the smartest, but it is surprisingly good at healing. That being said, it can still be outpaced by a damaging boss. This makes healing items great for throwing an emergency heal, and resurrection items great for resurrecting down allies when things go south, including your healer. Next tip, tune to your strengths. In the course of playing the game, you can acquire various tunings for your characters, which grant them special abilities, buffs, and elemental attacks. These can be equipped through the NPC Lyle, and also can be leveled up to further raise the bonuses you get for various stats, like attack for example. Given the different combinations you can get, I recommend picking tunings that work well with your playstyle. If you want extra defense, Yuma's original tuning comes with auto block. If you want more offensive aggression, you can opt to use his tuning that increases your attack speed. Other tunings add an elemental or status attack to your hits. Unless you plan on grinding a lot, you may want to stick with one tuning at first, as the benefits are better the higher a tuning's level. Onward to the next pointer, use your aspects. See, another mechanic in Shining Resonance are equipable items called aspects, which grant characters various skills or abilities. Some, for example, can increase your HP or MP by a certain percentage. Others increase your physical or magical attack or your physical and magical defense. Or defense. These can be acquired either as rewards from quests or by creating them via Alchemy. You'll definitely want to tailor these with the character type you're equipping them on. Yuma, for example, is an excellent offensive character and can benefit from aspects that raise his attack power even further. Sonya meanwhile has some tank abilities and can benefit from aspects that raise her defense. Naturally, you'll want to equip magic boosting aspects with your spellcasters. Make sure you don't skimp out on gathering materials, as you can use those to create these things. You can also do grimoire missions to acquire them. The next tip involves bonds and affection. Depending on which traits you pick, you can influence the bonds between your characters. These traits can range from leveraging friendships or even rivalries to improve your chances to trigger a resonance between your characters during battle, or even causing some unexpected effects. Trait examples include Good Friend, which makes team members protect allies, or Full Support, which makes a character more likely to heal a team member. The more you maintain these bonds, the higher their levels get, which increases the likelihood of triggering a resonance. You can also raise the affection of characters via events, such as conversations before resting, or even just hanging out with them. And my last tip is, there is no shame in running. Shining Resonance has a nasty habit of scattering about enemies in the field that have astronomically higher levels than your characters. This usually happens in exits to other areas you shouldn't visit yet, but can also occur in an area you just happen to be passing through. You can actually identify such monsters on your map because they're denoted with a red dot that's larger than usual. That being said, I ran against these monsters sometimes on purpose, sometimes by accident. And you know you're out of your league when a monster can kill one of your team members in one hit. When that happens, take the character you're controlling and keep running against the edge of the battlefield until you escape. Run, Forrest, run. I mean, it's better than a team wipe, that's for sure. Anyway, those are my quick tips for improving your performance in battle in Shining Resonance Refrain. I almost forgot what game I'm giving advice for. Sharp as a marble. That's me. Yeah, those are my tips for improving your combat performance. So, do you guys have any of your own tips to share for other folks? As always, feel free to leave any thoughts or questions in the comment section. Once again, this is Tabi Asobi, and thank you for watching.